We're gonna start off with our this.
Even stronger.
Japanese Prime Minister is here.
To elevate
Shigeru Ishiba
in the United States
today doing a press conference. Right after I came back, he came back too.
$1 trillion. President Trump and myself also concurred to elevate the Japan-U.S. partnership to an even higher level through improving business environment and increasing bilateral investment and employment, strengthening each other's industries, leading the world in developing
we flew
advanced
together.
Technologies such as AI and leading-edge semiconductors, and strongly promoting efforts to harness the energy of the growing market in the
Is he going to give us trains? He's not going to give us anything. What do you mean? Is he going to give us trains? He has no power. He has no motion. He has no juice.
Cooperate to strengthen energy security between
they are the junior partner in this coalition. All right, I got to blast off.
Of United States liquefied natural gas to Japan.
Bill Morrigar, thank you for the 50 big ones.
Regarding foreign exchange, as in the first Trump administration, close discussions will continue between Japanese and the U.S. finance ministers who are experts in this field.
We also held candid discussions on challenges the Indo-Pacific region is facing. We confirmed that we are resolved not to allow unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force or coercion, and to oppose such attempts in the East and South China Seas in order to fully defend a free and open Indo-Pacific.
Trump did a 10-minute rant about California high-speed rail and said he would try to stop it ASAP. Bro does not like trains. Yeah, I got the yay crash out as well. Hold on, Freaky Friday.
Please continue to age. I conveyed my strong sense of urgency and determination directly to President Trump, and gained his renewed strong support for the immediate resolution of the abductions issue. While this was my first face-to-face meeting with President Trump, we were able to openly and frankly exchange views.
Do we have
our meeting turned out
do we have
to
a
be
blast
very
off
productive and meaningful. As a result of today's meeting, which marked a new departure for the Japan-U.S. relations, we are issuing a Japan-U.S. Joint Leaders Statement. This document will serve as a compass for further cooperation between our two countries. On the basis of these deliverables,
I just used the Prime Minister's
I look forward to working together with President Trump,
glaze fit
who I respect immensely,
as a
to
blast
usher
off.
in a new golden age of Japan-U.S. relations.
He's so scared, by the way.
I look forward to welcoming you to Japan.
From what I understand, the Japanese politics is Japanese politicians are absolutely terrified. They are so worried about Donald Trump basically exploding all different kinds of trade, which is understandable.
Oh, I think she'll be okay with it somehow.
I'm trying to defend you in TikTok comments right now. I don't know how you do this every day. Keep up the good fight, soldier. The truth is the greatest answer to all defamation. That was the question Trump was just asked. What does Melania think about this? I love real Donald Trump as much as a straight man can love another man. Yeah, I saw this.
I mean, we don't have very good security in our country, and they get it very easily. And what we're doing, if you look at what has just taken place with respect to some of the investments that have been made on another agency that people have been talking about for years, but nobody did anything about it, it's absolutely obscene, dangerous, bad, very costly. I mean, virtually every investment made is a con job. There's nothing of value to anybody unless there's a kickback scheme going on, which is
having foreign leaders sit through Donald Trump's ramblings about how foreign aid organizations are actually doing a con because they're paying to make people more woke and gay or whatever Donald Trump thinks is happening is so funny.
We're talking about trillions of dollars. It will be, in the end, trillions of dollars.
Trump just misses the GOAT.
Illegally, I would say.
He misses Shinzo Abe. That's what it is.
Perhaps illegally overall. And I'm very proud of the job that this group of young people, generally young people, but very smart people, they're doing. They're doing it at my insistence. It would be a lot easier not to do it, but we have to take some of these things apart to find the corruption. And we found tremendous corruption.
Well,
I see the same ones. I see Maxine Waters, a lowlife. I see, all these people. They don't love our country. They don't love our country. We want great education. So they rank 40 countries in education. We're ranked dead last dead last. But the good news is we're number one in one category. You know what that is? Cost per pupil. We spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. You look at Norway, Denmark, Sweden, various countries all up and down.
Cost per pupil.
Finland. China does very well in education. And then you look at us. We spend much more money than they do per pupil or any other way. But we spend much more money than they do, and yet we're ranked.
There's another one that we're number one at.
Biden's last
We're
year,
number one at another
congratulations,
thing.
Joe.
School
We're ranked
shootings.
Dead last.
We're number one at school shootings per pupil and in totality, too.
Right choice. But beyond choice, long beyond choice, I want to see it go back to the states where great states that do so well have no debt. They're operated brilliantly. They'll be as good as Norway or Denmark or Sweden or any of the other highly ranked countries. They'll probably have 35 to 38 states will be right at the top. And the rest will come along. They'll have to come along competitively. And by the way, we'll be spending a lot less money. And we'll have great education.
One of the DOGE engineers was fired for some inappropriate posts. The vice president says, bring him back. What do you say?
Well, I don't know about the particular thing, but if the vice president said that, did you say that? I'm with the vice president. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yes, red dress.
How strong do you want Japan's military to be? And do you specifically hope that their increased military spending will deter China and North Korea? What did you talk about that today?
Well, I want our military to be the strongest. I also
No, not your
don't mind
military.
spending so much money.
She's asking about the Japanese military. Also, that's like a child. Who is that person from? What organization is that journalist from? Because that was a question that was like a elementary student. Huh? Kapıda paket var büyük. I mean,
Strongest military by far. We have great people.
was that like OAN or what was that? Was that the influencer?
Having gone through the gauntlet, he went through a lot, but he got through, and he's going to be a tremendous.
She was like, "Hello, Mr. President. Don't you think it would be sick if Japan had a big military? And is it because you want them to fight back against North Korea and China?" It's like, yeah, that's the entire principle for beefing up Japanese self-defense, okay? Which is unconstitutional, as we found, as we investigated further with the JCP stream.
Go ahead.
America meeting with Japan after you come back, your influence is getting ridiculous, dude.
This is Hiramoto from Nippon Television. My question, let me ask two quick questions.
Sure.
First, this is the first meeting between Mr. President and Prime Minister Ishiba. So what kind of impression do you have on him? And number two, do you have an idea or do you have a plan to impose tariff against Japan so far? Thank you.
I think that he is going to be a great prime minister. I think he's a very strong man, very, very strong. I have great respect for him. I've known him for a long time through a reputation. Shinzo Abe thought the world of him, and I think he's going to do a fantastic job as prime minister. A very strong person. I wish he wasn't so strong. I wish he was a little bit weaker than that, but that's what I got. I have to get strong guys all the time. He's going to be a great prime minister. I also, in terms of tariffs, I mean, we're going to have tariffs, mostly reciprocal tariffs, where we
He
go
loves
with, and I'm gonna
Shinzo,
be
dude.
probably
Shinzo
meeting that,
Abe.
Monday or Tuesday, have an announcement, probably a news conference.
This one looks
but
just
probably
like him.
reciprocal tariffs where a
Liberals
country
say that's
pays
racist.
so much or charges us so much, and we do the same. So very reciprocal, because I think that's the only fair way.
They
to do
brought
it.
a new
That way
one for me.
Nobody's hurt.
Hopefully,
They
you
charge
protect
us,
your
we charge
six.
them. It's the same thing, and I seem to be going in that line as opposed to a flat fee tariff. Okay. Yes, go, please. Please go ahead. Why don't you go ahead?
This is Ota from Yomiuri Shimbun newspaper. I have a question for
Where's
Prime Minister
Akahata?
Ishiba. So this is your very first summit meeting. What was your impression of President Trump? Were you able to build a good relationship of trust and confidence? In Northeast Asia, there are many challenges, China, North Korea, and so forth. And with President Trump, what did you appeal to him, and what kind of understanding were
Rand
you able to
940,
obtain?
thank you for
On
the 20
economic
gifted
field,
subs.
There is the acquisition of U.S. Steel, the buy Nippon Steel, and there are expansion of import of LNG. What were the
Why
communication
no tariffs against
discussion did you
Japan?
have with President
Because
Trump?
he loves Shinzo.
For the $1 trillion of investment from Japan to investment, what was his reaction? What about your communication on tariff front? This is the first time that I met with President Trump in person. So this was the first time meeting face to face. But for many, many years, I have watched him on television. So it was quite I was so excited to see such a celebrity on television, to see in person. On television, he is frightening, and he has a very strong personality.
What the fuck?
But when I met with him, actually, he was very sincere and very powerful and with strong will for the United States as for the whole world.
Bro,
I was able to
this
feel that.
this was the Shinzo method as well,
This
which is like aggressively
not the
glaze
sort of
Donald Trump
polishing,
and be
or
one of the
trying
only
to,
like world
suck up
leaders
to
that will
him
stand by his
for
side
the world
and hope that he
peace
doesn't
and for
roll
the
over your
regional
country.
stability that both of our countries need to play our role.
So he's
and
following the
make
Shinzo
our
method.
endeavors and responsibility. As for the increase of our defense expenditures, it is not that we are told by the United States to do so. Japan, on our own decision and on our own responsibility, we need to increase our defense expenditures. But of course, we need to communicate and consult with the United States. But the responsibility is with Japan, and the decision is with Japan. Now, on the tariffs, that if it is mutually beneficial, tariffs need to be set. And as for Japan, as Mr. President has introduced to us, an unprecedented investment will be made from Japan to the United States, and so many jobs will be created. So $1 trillion is the target. And this will be to the benefit of the United States, but also to the benefit of Japan as well. Investment is mutually beneficial. So be it
What's
with
happening?
US
Are you
Steel,
lagging or is it me?
as
Am I
Mr.
lagging?
President says, it is not acquisition, it is investment. So the Japanese technology will be provided, and the better quality products will be manufactured in the United States, and the U.S.
Your
Steel
audio is
will
out of
make
sync?
products which
Audio
will contribute
stutter?
not only to the United States and Japan, but also to the whole world. It is not one-sided. It will be reciprocal. It will be mutually beneficial. And I believe we were able to share on this, and that is the biggest result that I have seen today.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that U.S. Steel deal. So you're saying that is this a restructuring of the deal that's happening, and then will you approve?
They're doing it as an investment, no longer a purchase.
Okay.
I didn't want it
Rand
purchased,
940,
but
thank you for the
investment
10
I love.
gifted.
And they're going to do a big investment, subject to getting the deal done.
Fluke, thank
they'll
you
be
for
doing
the
a big-
20 gifted.
Where the
I'm
US
okay with that, sure.
What was your argument to the president?
They're
related to
literally
US
like,
Steel
yo,
and
we will
working on
invest so
tariffs?
much. We will invest a lot of money into the country. Please,
You said
please
on
don't
tariffs
roll
that
over
you'd
us
like
with
to
global
have
trade.
reciprocal back and forth. What was the reception from
Please,
the
no
Japanese
matter
Prime
what.
Minister when you said that, or when you talked
Well,
about
we
it?
didn't discuss tariffs too much. We really discussed many other things, including the pipeline in Alaska, which I think is going to be maybe the most exciting thing with Doug. We discussed that at length, the pipeline. I mean, it seemed to be of great interest to them. It's,
Did I do
we
some
have
lobbying for Trump while I was out there?
potentially,
Yeah.
More oil and gas than in Saudi Arabia, just
Chat.
Alaska. We have
It's time to tell you the truth. I'm actually a part of the USAID. I'm a USAID recipient. I've been working for Donald Trump. I actually went to Japan on a national prosperity and friendship tour. It's time to come clean.
big problem.
I went to Japan with one purpose, and that was to ensure our partners in trade that their security was of our utmost importance, and that they will play a very significant role as the bulwark against Chinese communism.
You might answer that question. He's
Yeah.
curious about that himself, I think.
I'm actually not only a liberal, but a liberal of the highest order, a Fed.
If you want to answer that, you may, about LNG, that the United States wouldn't sell you LNG.
The highest stage of liberalism is when you're a CIA member, when you're a part of the State Department, and that's what I
That
am.
was a really unfortunate thing, but the current administration, the previous administration was not allowing the LNG to be exported to us. I believe that President Trump, on the day of his inauguration, allowed us to resume this importing. I think this is something that is really wonderful for us. And as the country of Japan, we are interested in importing not just LNG, but also bioethanol, ammonia, and other resources at a stable price.
Listen, the only people that work for the State Department or are federal agents, or at least federal agent contractors that criticize Israel as much as I do, are the ones who are overtly and openly anti-Semitic. Okay? That's it. Those are the only voices that are allowed for some obvious reasons. If you are not anti-Semitic and, as a matter of fact, aggressively against anti-Semitism and also simultaneously anti-Israel, you are the biggest threat. Because if you're an anti-Semite and you say fucked up shit about Jews and then turn around and say you also hate Israel, that's great. That's a great propaganda opportunity. You can go back and say, look, these guys hate Israel because they're anti-Semitic. Okay? If you are, on the other hand, someone who routinely combats anti-Semitism and simultaneously, from an empathetic point of view, are in support of Palestinian emancipation, well, then you're a real threat. You're a real danger.
Right up in the front of the line. Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Mr. Prime Minister, I have a question for you as well, but Mr. President, I'll start with you. Quickly, to follow up on what Peter was asking, have you directed Elon Musk to review Pentagon spending, given it's the biggest discretionary spending
Yes,
in
I
the
have
federal
Pentagon, education, just about everything. We're going to go through everything, just as it was so bad with what we just went through with this horrible situation we just went through. And I guess 97% of the people have been dismissed. It was very, very unfortunate. You're not going to find anything like that, but you're going to find a lot. And I've instructed him to go check out education, to check out the Pentagon, which is the military. And, sadly, you'll find some things that are pretty bad. But I don't think proportionally you're going to see anything like we just saw.
FBI has turned over a list to the Justice Department of the FBI agents who worked on the January 6 rioters cases. Are you planning to fire the FBI agents who worked on those investigations?
No, but I'll fire some of them because some of them were corrupt. I have no doubt about that. I got to know a lot about that business, that world.
Rand 940 with another 10.
We had some corrupt agents, and those people are gone, or they will be gone, and it'll be done quickly and very surgically. Did you have a question for the Prime Minister? Talk up. I don't know. I know we have some that are very corrupt and we don't like it. We're going to bring back the reputation of the FBI. Kash Patel is going to do a great job. And we're going to bring back the reputation of the FBI, which has been hurt very badly. It's been devastated over the last 4 years.
You have just been meeting for the first time with President Trump. The last administration famously did not have hardly any, if at all, contact with North Korea. President Trump certainly did the last time he was in office. Would you like to see him resume that contact and also that in-person meeting that he had with the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un?
That is something that the United States needs to determine on its own, and it's not something that we should request. Having said that, but for example, in Vietnam or Singapore, the President of the United States.
Do you have to be a moronic idiot to be on Trump's cabinet? Yes. The dumber you are, the better it is. But most importantly, you have to be a loyal idiot. Okay?
So now that President Trump is
I think being a smart loyalist is a problem, because if you're a smart loyalist, there are going to be instances where, I'm skipping this press conference, by the way, because it's boring. Even I'm not that big of a weeb. All right. It's the most expected press conference of all time. Obviously, Shigeru Ishiba. And I've been following this on the Japanese news side. The entire Japanese foreign policy or American relationship hinges on how hard you can glaze Trump. It's the Shinzo Abe method. This is something that Japanese news media has talked about quite frequently during Shinzo Abe's reign as well, where there's this one famous photo of all the world leaders that are like kind of trying to dominate Donald Trump, and he's just sitting there like this with a smug face and Shinzo Abe is actually the only world leader that is copying Trump, also crossing his arms. That is a picture that in Japanese news was basically a summary of how Shinzo Abe chose to deal with Donald Trump, and that is precisely what they're going to continue doing. That's what the LDP is going to continue to do. I think this is not a very here it is. this is not a very interesting relationship. Like, I don't think that, yeah, as you can see right here, this was the photo that that summarizes like the Japanese relationship with Donald Trump the first time around. Obviously, Shinzo is now dead. He was assassinated, but they've always had a fairly solid relationship because of this, and this is what the Japanese hopes are, that they don't get destroyed like Canada or whatever, right? Or even threatened like Canada, even if Canada is not getting destroyed and there's a pause put on the tariffs. So it's an uninteresting relationship overall. I think what is infinitely more interesting is what Donald Trump will do with South Korea. Because as you guys know, just wondering, but is this camera angle temporary? I like it, but not sure if it's about to go back to the usual one. Dude, I think this is one of the only negative aspects of streaming on Twitch with a neurodivergent audience, is that like you just don't care about anything that's going on. This is the real camera angle. And I will, once I fix the camera angle and fix the autofocus and fix the lighting, this is the camera angle I'm going to go back to, okay? But for the time being, enjoy Kaya. Anyway, as I was saying, I think the real interesting relationship, the real interesting dynamic will be with South Korea. Why? Because South Korea is a place where there is a lot of instability. The LDP's power and influence has diminished over the past couple of decades, and it's pretty significant because, for the most part, Japan has been a one-party rule leadership. Even though there's a lower house and upper house, there's a theoretical democracy, but ultimately it's mostly just the one party that has dominated the country's politics in perpetuity post-World War II. Having said that, however, despite its influence diminishing a little bit, the LDP's influence diminishing a little bit, what's really interesting is South Korea. South Korea has real instability right now. There was a martial law and a false coup that failed. And Donald Trump's relationship with South Korea has also always been interesting. Is the audio still not synchronized? If it's not synchronized, it's on your end. You might have to refresh. Okay? You are a fucking racist as fuck. Team Iziad? What? Oh, is it because you wrote in Arabic and it auto-tagged Fawzabot? Yeah. Sorry, Team Aziad. You can't write in Arabic. The reason why, or any other languages really, and the reason why is because, you know, I don't speak either of those languages, so I can't moderate adequately. You are not in sync. If I am not in sync, it might be because you need to refresh, like I said. What is this? Your ops got no motion? What? Dude, come on. Please stop. Even as a joke, I don't want to see what Ethan is doing, okay? I'm over here trying to explain foreign policy. It's unironically desynced and refreshing does not fix it. Okay, I don't know. I give up. I'm sorry. Anyway, what Donald Trump will do with South Korea and North Korea will be more interesting than Japan. Japan is going to be business as usual. Offer them defense contracts, beef up their army, even though it's unconstitutional. Okay? And that's it. Can you translate us on? No.
The other things.
To what extent will you discuss North Korea today, sir?
That'll always be a topic, especially with Japan. We will be discussing North Korea and many other things. We'll be spending pretty much the day, but that's always a topic.
Mr. President, have you changed your mind about the sale of U.S. Steel?
No, I think we're going to be discussing that today. No, I haven't, and I hear we'll have some pretty good information on that. You might want to go. Have you? Okay.
President, are tariffs an option if the deficit doesn't get to equilibrium or to equality?
Yes, they are.
Can you discuss what your plan is for reciprocal trade? Are you signing an EO on that today?
I'll be announcing that next week, reciprocal trade, so that we're treated evenly with other countries. We don't want any more or any less. So I'll be announcing that next week, and many other things having to do not even with trade, but other things. But I'll be talking about reciprocal trade sometime next week. We'll have a news conference, and we'll lay it out. Pretty simple. It affects everybody. Yeah. Reciprocal. Yeah. We'll be talking about that next week.
I understand that the key point in this regard is to make that for mutually beneficial. That means that would benefit the development of the United States as well as the development of Japan. And I do hope that whatever measures and actions should meet this criteria, meaning that serving the interest of both countries. But as to specifics, I understand that we are going to have further discussion.
Correct.
Mr. President, are there any specific concessions that you will be asking for from Japan that you can share?
Oh, we'll be having. I think it'll be very easy for Japan. We have a fantastic relationship. I don't think we'll have any problem whatsoever. They want fairness also.
Mr. President, do you have a reaction to the new Time magazine cover that has Elon Musk sitting behind
Drama.
your Resolute desk?
He doesn't like. No, don't translate that. Don't translate that. That's embarrassing. He does not like it. That's the type of stuff. That's the type of stuff that actually does get to Trump. Like, yeah, sure, it's silliness, but Trump is silly. That's it. That is exactly the type of stuff that Donald Trump actively gets annoyed by.
Is Time magazine still in business? I didn't even know that. Elon is doing a great job.
Yeah, they're like forcing themselves to laugh at this. They're like, ah ha ha ha, you are so funny. You are so funny, Mr. President. Yeah, we also hate Time magazine. It's like, bro, you're Japanese. What are you talking about? Why would you ever care about, fake news media and Time magazine?
He's finding tremendous fraud and corruption and waste. You see it with the USAID, but you're going to see it even more so with other agencies and other parts of government. He's got a staff that's fantastic. He's wanted to be able to do this for a long time, and everybody else knew it was existent, but I think never so much. When you look at USAID, that's a fraud. The whole thing is a fraud. Very little being put to good use. Every single line that I look at in terms of events and transactions is either corrupt or ridiculous. And we're going to be doing that throughout government. And I think we're going to be very close to balancing budgets for the first time in many years. I think we're going to be very close to, in addition to monies coming in from tariffs, et cetera, but no, he's doing a very good job. I'm very happy with it.
Will you put Elon Musk up on the podium for us to ask him some questions, Mr. President, at any point? Will you put Elon Musk up on the podium for us to ask him some questions?
Oh, sure, he'll be. He's not shy. Elon's not shy.
Any further deliberations on Gaza, sir? The timetable for a takeover?
No deliberations. It's been very well received, where basically the United States would view it as a real estate transaction where we'll be an investor in that part of the world, and no rush to do anything. We wouldn't need anybody there. It would be supplied and given to us by Israel. They'll watch it in terms of security. We're not talking about boots in the ground or anything, but I think the fact that we're there, that we have an investment there, I think would go a long way to creating peace. We don't want to see everybody move back and then move out in 10 years. This has been going on for 50 years, much more than that. We just want to see stability. That would be having us have that particular piece in that particular location, I think would show great stability and would lead to great stability in the area for very little money, very little price, and we wouldn't need soldiers at all. That will be taken care of by others. And the investments are taken care of by others also. So for no investment, I mean virtually no investment whatsoever, it would bring stability to the area, and others can invest in it later on. But we're in no rush on it. It's absolutely no rush.
President Trump, do you believe DeepSeek is a national security threat, and how do you plan to collaborate on AI initiatives?
On where?
DeepSeek, do you believe it's a national security threat?
No, I think it's happening. I mean, it's a technology that's happening. It's actually, I think we're going to benefit if it's correct what's going on now, that it'll be a lot less expensive. The AI we're talking about will be a lot less expensive than people originally thought. That's a good thing. I view that as a very good development, not a bad development.
Mr. President, on autos specifically, in your first term, you tried to tariff autos. Is that on the table still? Are you trying to do that in your second administration?
Auto tariff?
Auto tariff?
Oh, yeah, sure, that's on the table. That's always on the table. It's a very big deal because we are, we have cases where we don't supply autos and other countries do, and, we have to equalize it. We have to stabilize it and equalize it.
Will you have Vice President Vance meet with President Zelensky next week while he's in Europe?
I will probably be meeting with President Zelensky next week, and I will probably...
The amount of glaze that he offers to China is weirding me out. He even mentions that China's education is fantastic, which is odd because that's like a thing that you normally wouldn't hear from an American politician, even though it's the truth, right? Usually, at best, Democrats will glaze like Nordic style social democracies or whatever in terms of social safety nets. I don't ever hear from even the Democrats in terms of like what China is doing that is good. Especially odd considering that he is the #1 China hawk and he just regularly will glaze China and is also undermining a bunch of State Department cutouts like USAID. I don't understand it. I will readily admit, I suspect that it's because they want to, like I said, centralize USAID and stop with soft power and only go after hard power initiatives and just try to like bully countries rather than like offer any aid whatsoever. But it truly doesn't make sense.
To President Putin, I'd like to see that war end for one primary reason. They're killing so many people. You're losing millions of people on a battlefield. In this case, mostly the battlefield. You have 800,000 or 900,000 Russian soldiers are dead and very badly wounded. And the same thing with Ukraine. You have probably 700,000 with Ukraine. The numbers they gave are a little bit lower than that, but I believe those numbers aren't correct. I'd like to see it end just on a human basis. It's terrible what's going on. They have open fields with no protection. The only thing a bullet can hit is a human body, and the human body dies as soon as it gets hit. Now, I'd like to see that end. It's a ridiculous war. It would have never started if I were president. That war would have never started. Putin would not have started that war if I were president. And by the way, you wouldn't have had October 7th if I was president either. That mess would not have started. But no, I would very much like to help out. One of the things we're looking at with President Zelensky is having the security of their assets. They have assets underground, rare earth and other things, but primarily rare earth. And we want to have security. Really, we want security because, as you know, Europe is putting up.
Again, quiet part, but out loud. He's like, yeah, we want their rare earth minerals. We must secure them. Like, and it's not, I don't think it's rare earth minerals in general for Ukraine, but it's still like state-owned assets. I'm sure that there's like some mining contracts that they could get out of it too, but it's virtually every single state-owned asset or every single asset sold off to foreign investors. It's just like when he said, oh, we're pulling out of Syria, but also we're maintaining security over the oil rigs. That's it. Or when he basically said, who's going to buy these weapons? If we don't sell billions of dollars of weapons to Saudi Arabia, someone else will. Do you have $1 billion that you want to give me for weapons? Donald Trump is a very frustrating figure for a lot of Americans because he does have a tendency to say the quiet part out loud and never really shelter from the truth, never really try to massage his takes to ensure that there is some semblance of defending the international rule-based order. Now, ironically enough, there is no difference between the modus operandi of Donald Trump and previous administrations in that regard. There are some exceptions to this rule, of course, but ultimately, it's just the difference. The major difference is like aesthetically, he just very openly states what he wants. He won't masquerade and say, oh, we must protect Ukraine because Ukraine is gay and woke or whatever, right? He won't say that. He'll just be like, yeah, we want mining contracts. We want their natural resources. That's it. Ukraine is not that gay. It doesn't matter. it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. I'm just making an exaggerated example of like the ways in which liberals oftentimes will try to offer additional context to why they're doing something in a way that liberals will be on board with. Okay. And the reality of the matter is people don't respond positively to that, because when they are faced with the indecency, when they're faced with the cruel actions of the American state, they're like, oh, but I don't like that because it doesn't make me feel good. Right. That's it. Why is Hasan audio so delayed? I don't know. For some people, I'm still delayed, it seems. But for others, I'm not. So I don't know what's going on, honestly. I can't tell if people are memeing or not.
Much less money than us. Much. NATO, Europe, call it whatever you want. And we're at probably 300 billion plus, and they're at probably, the real number is 100 billion. That's a lot.
Do you want to do this real quick and see if it fixes I checked off on properties on my desktop audio. I checked off use device. Yeah, I don't think I have that right now. Like, I don't think it's, it's not device timestamps is not on right now. So I don't know why there's a delay. Timestamps. Toggle it, see if it fixes it. No, it'll actually make it worse if I did use device timestamps. Let's see if it worked. It's probably going to be worse now.
A lot of money, but it's 200 billion less than us, and there's an ocean in between. They need it more than us, so we're asking them to equalize and get even. But we're also asking President Zelensky for.
It's worse now. Yeah, the video is probably worse. The desktop audio is worse. All right, I fixed it. Seems like a Twitch issue. I had to refresh and it started lagging. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I can try to fix the ingest again. 1 second. You'll see a brief blip. There'll be a brief moment of effing. Let's see. We're back. Is it better? Why does everybody say F? I know. You don't have to refresh. I'm changing the ingest. God damn. Everybody's complaining about the F. There's no F. It's not a F. I did it. I did it on purpose.
The security of putting all this money up, and we're saying, where does it stop? And yet we want to see it out to an end. We want to see it end. But we are going to be asking for the security, and we've already told him, of an equal amount of something where our money, I mean, the American taxpayers in for $300 billion. Biden never negotiated. He never told Europe to put in more money. And it got out of hand, just like NATO.
Rando, with another 10
we were
gift
paying
subs.
almost 100% of NATO when I first came in. Everybody was taking advantage of the good old United States, but not anymore. So what, and now, if you speak to the Secretary General of NATO, who was very nice when he was here 2 weeks ago, he said what Trump did was amazing. He got everybody to pay. And to do that, you have to ask. And Biden never asked. So we're in for probably close to $200 billion more than Europe. And yet, obviously, it affects Europe much more than us. So we would like them to stay, to equalize. They have to go more. And from our standpoint, we do want security in all this money that we're putting up. Okay? He may meet next week, yeah. Whenever he'd like. I'm here. I'm here. Could be Washington. Well, I'm not going there. It could be. We've always had a good relationship. President Putin and I have always had a good relationship. That's why it's so sad that it happened. This would have never happened if I were president. It's so sad to see it happen. So many dead people. By the way, so many cities are demolished. They're like, you talk about Gaza? Well, take a look at Ukraine. So many of those cities are demolition sites. Demolished. So sad. Should have never happened. All those beautiful golden domes, but much more importantly, all those beautiful people are dead. And it should have never happened. Thank you very much, everybody.
Ukraine is so flat. The only thing stopping a bullet is a
President
person's
Trump.
body. All right. Update. After Trump just said he agrees with JD, Elon says his Nazi staffer is now back. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. So a couple things to discuss here. But before we get to, yes, we're going to talk about Kanye West saying he loves Hitler and all the Kanye West crash out as well. Okay, we're going to talk about all of that. Now, what? Did you see this pic, by the way? What is this pic? Oh, my God. When I checked the Internet Archive an hour ago for URLs associated with our account, there were 20 pages of results. Now there are only 2 total saved URLs left, and the archive tweets I still have in my browser cache are excluded. Yeah. They're They're purging everything from the Wayback Machine, which is something I suspected would happen as well. They want to take out the Wayback Machine in general. They want to take out the Internet Archive in general. There's been an initiative to do that, which is obviously devastating. But if they don't actually take out the archive, then they will basically delete certain parts of the archive, and the archive will play ball in order to, in order not to lose out on this valuable resource. It is pretty gross. It's pretty disgusting. We're going to talk about the Department of Education and how politicians are blocked from entering the Department of Education right now by some guy, just one guy. Here it is. This is what's going on currently this morning. They're blocking members of Congress from entering the Department of Education. Elon is allowed in and not the people. Illegal. And I said, remembering what the Korean politicians did when the president tried to use special forces to block them from entering the National Assembly. It's just one guy. They have no right to do this. They don't have the right to do this. Like, this guy with this weird ass Band-Aid has no right to block people. Classic Democrat resistance. State the obvious, do absolutely nothing, demand applause. Yeah. We really need better politicians, man. We really need better politicians.
Of education are here because we pay for.
And we just need younger politicians in general. Like, no disrespect, not to be ageist or whatever, but like, this is a byproduct of all the top leadership in the Democratic Party being 800 years old.
For them to be here. He's standing here today, blocking the door, and he can't give us a good reason why he's blocking this door.
Make sure they see right here, all access entrance.
Well, and I think it should be clear to parents in the United States, if you want to advocate on behalf of your children, you are not allowed to come into this building where you pay taxes. Parents who have children who are disabled, access is being blocked. You voted for members of Congress to advocate on behalf of your children with disabilities, for young women who have been victims of sexual assault in our classrooms, on our school grounds. Members of OCR are fighting for your children. We are not allowed in the building to talk to them. We are not allowed to advocate on behalf of America's children. America, we have a problem.
Now, everybody stand of education.
Like, even with Greg, he would become instant legend status if he just like said, hey man, you have no authority here. I'm just going in. There's not really much you can do about it. And then what? Okay, the cops arrested him. All right, so what? What do you think will happen? Like, what do you, this is how you're supposed to obstruct. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. Yeah, people are saying, oh, all right, there's cops inside. Okay, it is an illegal action. It is an unenforceable illegal detention. Yes, there are going to be some penalties in the process. What are we talking about? Okay, yeah, you get arrested. Do you know how much, first of all, as an elected representative, if you get arrested in that process for doing something that is within your rights, doing something at the behest of the public, okay, instead of sitting there and trying to say like, oh, look at this, this is so unacceptable. Yeah, you're actually getting a lot of momentum and more attention to your cause. It's a part of how you're supposed to do this. That's it. You would instantly shoot up in popularity instantaneously, okay? Instantly. If that's a part of political theater, then yeah, do some political theater. Do better political theater, because this kind of political theater is silly. It's not enough.
Someone who works here.
So what are you going to do? You're going to beat us up if we go in?
I mean, you're going to,
we want you to move out of the way.
What authority can you deny members of Congress their oversight role?
You don't have a business reason to be here.
You do not have authority, sir. You do not have authority. There is no authority for you to deny members of Congress their oversight responsibility.
Bro, you're a member of Congress. You are an elected representative in the United States of America. That's just a guy. What is going on? Like, that's just some guy. What are we doing? Do you know how powerful you are? Did you guys forget? Did the Democrats genuinely forget what this looks like? Like, when you take a step, you are not just taking a step on your own. You are taking a step for all of your constituents. Okay? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I want to see some momentum here. I want to see some motion here. I want to see Democrats push back. This stooge of the DOE door has the same power over Dems as a Senate parliamentarian does. Yeah, it's just, it doesn't make sense. I just, like, this is political theater, but it's bad political theater. Going inside would be good political theater. Getting arrested would be great political theater. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Not only would it be great political theater, but it also would get people to pay attention more to what is happening. This is the perfect visualization of democratic resistance. When someone does something outrageous and illegal, you just stand there and yell, you're actually not allowed to do this. Yeah, and then, you know, demand fealty from the voters. It's also kind of funny because, like, their response is like, oh, well, if we get arrested, then we can't go and, what, vote for Trump's cabinet picks? Like, that's what you're... First of all, a member of Congress. You are not staying in prison, okay? That is ridiculous. That's like next level, we have officially moved on to full-blown autocracy nonsense, which we're kind of getting there. And especially if Democrats keep showing their bellies with every single act that the right-wing reactionary administration engages in, then we will get there eventually. Okay? Having said that, however, yeah, you're going to be detained for a couple hours. But if your response is like, oh, I don't want to be stuck in jail, I don't want to go to jail, and do what? Like, what, you're going to miss votes? Like, what votes were you going to be voting for?
Be on a guest list in order to come to the Department of Education.
Either we are informed in advance if somebody's coming, or
like, peak liberalism is what we saw in the National Assembly in South Korea. That was where liberalism as a method and voting as voting both as theory and as praxis actually worked. But that required politicians to actively not abide by whatever kind of illegal standards was being set by the administration in charge. Okay? Straight up. That is peak liberalism is what happened in South Korea. Yeah, here, remember, look at this. That's a member of the National Assembly grabbing the gun of one of the special forces soldiers. Like, that's insane, dude. Like, think about that. Do you know how fast any American would get shot in that process? They would get shot before it got there, okay? Yeah, that's also what happens when you're not 800 years old, I think. But then again, Greg Kazar was there, Maxwell Frost was there, and they're young. They didn't put their bodies on the line either. Just a sad state of affairs to watch, where liberals that present liberalism as the alternative, showing once again that liberalism, as a matter of fact, is not going to be enough to not only defeat, but even obstruct the Trump agenda. Because, like, breaking into the Department of Education, or getting into the Department of Education is not going to, like, solve this issue at all. But at least you are presenting a fight. You're presenting a fight and putting yourself on the line. You're showcasing that, like, you're showcasing that you're not afraid of sacrificing something. Hassan's chair is the hardest worker in the room. Yeah, this is true. Holds my fat ass up. My ass is very fat, chatter. They should have had their security teams escort that guy away for obstructing congressional movement and duties. Yeah. Anyway, God, I can't stand how corny these guys are. Speaking of how corny these guys are, here's what Elon Musk said today. I love @real Donald Trump as much as a straight man can love another man. Hey, not gay though, okay? Pause. No homo. Like, he had to specify. He couldn't just say, I love Donald Trump. He had to specify. He's like, I love Donald Trump, but, like, not in a gay way, okay? Yes, I'm dick riding, but in a way where I'm not going to let him finish, you know, inside of me at least. That's what he's saying here. He's like, look, I'll ride it till the moment, all the way to completion. Only one spin? No, multiple spins. And yes, they are bringing back the racist staffer. Elon Musk, 6 hours ago, post, bring back DOGE staffer who made inappropriate statements via a now deleted pseudonym. JD Vance, who has Indian children. Okay? JD Vance, whose wife is Indian and has an Indian son. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because one of the inappropriate statements that the DOGE staffer made was something along the lines of like, we should normalize Indian racism, or we should do more Indian racism. Something along those lines. Okay? Yeah, normalize Indian hate. I was racist before it was cool. You could not pay me to marry outside my ethnicity. 99% of Indian H-1Bs will be replaced by slightly smarter LLMs. They're going back. Don't worry, guys. That guy is now being defended by JD Vance, who has an Indian son. Okay? It's just like, I can't, like, the only level higher, the only way you can be cucked even more on this issue is if you yourself were Indian and were like, yeah, this is actually pretty sick. I, as an Indian guy, also think we should normalize Indian hate, you know? And Ro Khanna did hit him hard on this. He said, are you going to tell him to apologize for saying normalize Indian hate before this rehire? Just asking for the sake of both of our kids. For the sake of both of our kids, grow up. Racist trolls on the internet, while offensive, don't threaten my kids. You know what does? A culture that denies grace to the people who make mistakes. A culture that encourages congressmen to act like whiny children. What do you mean? Dog, this dude is 25 years old. He's not a child, okay? While also simultaneously you're saying he's a kid for saying racist shit. He said it like 2 months ago. It's not like he was 14 when he tweeted that. He said it 2 months ago, you fucking asshole. What the hell? He literally, it's not like he's a child when he's making racist comments, but also an adult. How dare you say he's a child? A capable adult that is tasked with having all of your social security information, but also a racist troll that he is openly admitting is a racist troll on the internet. What is the argument? Kaya, please. Argument doesn't make any damn sense. My son loves being socially ostracized, actually. Like, if he's just a kid, he shouldn't get top security clearance. Kaya, place. Kaya, go. Sit down. That's crazy. I cannot overstate how much I loathe this emotional blackmail pretending to be concerned. My kids, God willing, will be risk takers. They won't think constantly about whether a flippant comment or a wrong viewpoint will follow them around for the rest of their lives. They will tell stupid jokes. They will develop views that they later think are wrong or even gross. I made mistakes as a kid, and thank God I grew up in a culture that encouraged me to grow up and learn and feel remorse when I screwed up or offer grace when others did. Yeah, he said he wanted eugenic immigration policy and to repeal the Civil Rights Act 6 weeks ago. Okay? That is crazy. He's just like, come on. He's got a lot of growing up to do. But also, he's grown up enough that he should command the Treasury Department. Okay? He should have control over the Treasury in its entirety. He's grown up. But also, he has a lot of growing up to do in terms of his racist trolling. I don't worry about my kids making mistakes or developing views that they later regret. Like, this kind of trolling old comments is incredibly stupid and unproductive when it's 10 years old, or when it's someone who said it when they were like 15. But if you're talking about someone who wrote these takes, who is now going to be in the federal government, okay, who wrote these takes 2 weeks ago as a 25-year-old or 2 months ago as a 25-year-old, then what are we talking about? Like, he just said it. That's not like, how can you combine a reasonable position about like influencers or whatever who have changed and who have grown from their past positions with something that is happening right now? It's so crazy. The next step here is basically when someone says like, oh, I think black people should be removed from all positions of power, right, in the federal government because that's DEI yesterday. And then people go, hey, maybe this guy who is very clearly a white supremacist shouldn't be in office. And then they go, oh, that was yesterday. He's grown so much. Okay? He's grown so much from his past mistakes yesterday. You don't understand. Why are you doing cancel culture to a guy who is wearing a Klan's robe? Excuse me. We all make mistakes. Pobody's nerfect. This morning was a time of great personal growth for me. Yeah. Why is the vice president airing beef on Twitter? Because that's just how it is nowadays. They'll grow up to be a U.S. congressman who engages in emotional blackmail. They'll grow up to be a U.S. congressman who engages in emotional blackmail over a kid's social media post. You disgust me. A kid? So if he's a kid, then maybe he shouldn't be in a federal agency. He shouldn't have control over a federal agency. Like, which one is it? He's not. Is he a kid? Is he a racist troll kid? Then maybe he shouldn't have this much power. Big scoop. Musk's DOGE team was fired by cybersecurity firm for leaking company secrets. Edward Korestein posted online that he had retained access to the firm's servers. Now he has access to sensitive government information. Elon Musk about to be like, this is illegal to report on. Here's the article. Here's the second, Mr. President, a second controversy from Elon Musk's DOGE team has hit the towers, okay? Edward Korestein posted online that he had retained access to the firm's servers. 19-year-old member of Elon Musk's squad that crisscrosses U.S. government agencies was fired from an internship after he was accused of sharing information with a competitor. Edward has been terminated for leaking internal information to the competitor, said a June 2022 message from an executive of the firm, Path Network, which was seen by Bloomberg News. This is unacceptable, and there's zero tolerance for this. A spokesperson for the Arizona-based hosting and data security firm said Thursday, I can confirm that Edward Korestein's brief contract was terminated after a conclusion of an internal investigation into leaking of proprietary company information that coincided with his tenure. Afterward, Korestein wrote that he'd retained access to the cybersecurity company's computers, though he said he hadn't taken advantage of it. I had access to every single machine, he wrote on Discord in late 2022, weeks after he was dismissed from Path Network, according to messages seen by Bloomberg. Posting under the name Rivage, which 6 people who know him said was his alias, Korestein said he could have wiped past customer supporting servers if he'd wished. He added, I never exploited it because it's just not me. Amazing. Anne? You don't understand. If he gets fired from his job, this one job, it will ruin his life. We have to let him have all of our social security numbers so that he won't ruin the rest of his life, because no one has ever come back from being fired. I write from a job I got after being fired hella times. Yeah, woke journalist Catherine Long, who doxed DOGE staffer, has ties to USAID. Catherine Long, a Wall Street Journal reporter with connections to USAID, just doxed DOGE team member Marco Elez and got him fired, conveniently after targeting him as a DOGE audits her former agency. This isn't journalism. She should be fired immediately. First of all, doxing is revealing private information about random citizens, okay, about private citizens. Journalists that are uncovering the names of government employees is not doxing, it's just reporting, okay? And also mentioning their past behavior that is from the not so distant past, such as 2 months ago, is also ridiculous. Like, that's not, like, what are we doing here? This is a public servant. Do you want public servant? I mean, I guess I don't want to hear the answer to that question. I was about to say, do you want public servants to have like overt, openly racist attitudes? And the answer for Elon Musk and the right wing is yes, absolutely. They do want that, yes. Also, wasn't it Wired, not Wall Street Journal, that dropped their names first? Yeah. And it's wild because we're talking about someone who is tasked with regulating, controlling sensitive information, and will have and is going to have a lot of control over federal regulatory agencies in general. Whereas Elon Musk's favorite account on his neo-Nazi website, Twitter, is Libs of TikTok, who literally does this deliberately, knowing full well that they'll get bomb threats, to like random teachers that she claims falsely are pedophile groomers. Okay? Like, none of this makes sense. They want every single political enemy that they have decided is bad to suffer repercussions for the crime of, I guess, for the crime of, you know, being gay while teaching. But also at the same time, if you are a government employee, God forbid we go, hey, you said really racist shit like 2 months ago. I feel like maybe you're not the best person, considering that you have no background, like no competent background whatsoever. And this is one of the craziest aspects of this also is that this is the team DEI, okay? Team anti-DEI. You got like black and brown women of color that have to work extra goddamn hard to get to a top position. And immediately they're like, oh, they only got there because they're black. Or they only got there because they're brown. Meanwhile, the anti-DEI team is hiring 19-year-olds with broccoli haircuts with no competence whatsoever. Like, what the fuck are we doing? We want the most competent people to be tasked with this job. That's why we hired this 19-year-old white kid who apparently in the past was fired from his internship for leaking proprietary information. His comments made in a Discord server focused on another competitor company worried executives of Path Network who believed there was no legitimate reason for a former employee to access their machines, according to a person familiar with the incident. The person asked not to be named, citing the sensitivity of the matter. Several of Corstein's online peers and former coworkers said they were surprised that the teenage friend they knew has been brought into one of the most high-profile teams in the Trump administration. His 2022 dismissal and the circumstances surrounding it add to questions about how he arrived in his new job with Musk's Department of Government Efficiency and how he'll handle sensitive government information that comes with it. Great stuff overall. Giving Elon Musk goon squad access to a system that control payments to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other key federal programs is a national security nightmare, said Senator Ron Wyden, an Oregon Democrat and a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Every hour, new disturbing details emerge to prove that these guys have no business anywhere close to sensitive information or critical networks. Yeah. We hate DEI. That's why we hired Pete Hegseth. That's why we appointed Pete Hegseth to lead the second largest hiring body in the United States of America. Okay? Even though his past experience is being the weekend host of Fox and Friends. Like, think about DEI hires in terms of like the previous head of the DOD. That's DEI, okay? Why is that DEI? Well, you know why. You know why he's DEI, okay? Pete Hegseth, on the other hand, not DEI. I wonder if DEI has anything to do with the actual competence demonstrated or the background of the individual at all. Just like everything else, DEI is, lo and behold, shocking to absolutely no one, at least in this community. DEI just means like they want to do what they think DEI is, but for white people. It's not merit-based at all, unless the only merit you care about is being white or being racist, really, or being a troll, which is interesting because that's kind of the reason why affirmative action and DEI was implemented to begin with. Because in the history of the United States, when you think about it, the only group of people that have ever actually been DEI recipients are white people. You know, at a time when black people and brown people there's still remnants of this, obviously, but at a time when black people were not allowed to get these jobs, or women were not allowed to get these jobs at all. And it had nothing to do with merit and everything to do with the color of your skin. So yeah, there's never been a moment in American history where people were like, oh, are you black? Okay, you're hired. There have, however, been a lot of moments in American history where someone simply gets hired because they are not black or not a woman. Seems to me like that's what people are trying to go back to desperately. But in any case, the other racist Doge guy is restored. His position is restored, so fear not. This is the other one. This is the broccoli cut one. This is a separate Doge guy. He was fired by cybersecurity firm for leaking company secrets. And the other Doge guy is now reinstated. Elon said it's criminal for the reporter to be a reporter. What the hell? Certainly improper, possibly criminal. Catherine Long, the journalist of the hit piece that got a Doge employee to resign for a spicy post, is a USAID employee. How is this not a conflict of interest? Yeah, another example of white people DEI, or, you know, hiring a white person, not based off of merit, but simply because they did some racist ass shit, is Daniel Penny being hired by Andreessen Horowitz. Literally no experience whatsoever, with the exception of being a high profile guy who went through the court system after murdering with his bare hands a black homeless person on a New York City subway. And now he's got a job at Andreessen Horowitz. I wonder why he got hired there. The irony here, of course, is Elon Musk talking about a conflict of interest being possibly criminal, when now he is, for the price of $256 million, he is now in charge of every single government regulatory agency that has either active court cases against many of the companies that he owns, all of them, or have prosecuted him in the past for impropriety. So, you know, I don't understand how this is a conflict of interest when a journalist is doing journalism. Okay? Wait, what? Have you covered that in the past? What? I've noticed that Elon is now saying everything he does not like is criminal. I know. It's definitely a little scary. It's definitely a little scary that Elon Musk gets to say things that he does not like are criminal now, especially when, you know, he does have a tremendous amount of influence over the current administration. He already got the Department of Justice to respond by saying that they would actively prosecute people that mention the names of the DOGE employees in general. Don't know if they're following up on that, but just something to consider as Elon Musk escalates. Here's Ezra Levin from Indivisible, co-founder of Indivisible, reporting on Hakeem Jeffries. Jeffries, after holding a House Dem leadership presser focused on Musk's DOGE concerns, does not commit to Dems withholding votes on government spending deal or debt ceiling over issues with Musk's efforts. At a presser minutes ago, Jeffries says he's powerless. Journalists asked, to what extent will Dems withhold votes in negotiations? Jeffries responds, Republicans control the trifecta. It's their government. What leverage do we have? We're going to continue to try to find bipartisan common ground. I'm Brian Kilmeade, and this is the collapse of America. Okay? I'm Brian Kilmeade. Let's find bipartisan compromise, bipartisan common ground. What are you saying? Yeah. Trump mega donor Steve Wynn has filed a petition asking the Supreme Court to overturn the landmark 1964 decision in New York Times v. Sullivan, which protects the media's ability to aggressively cover public officials. This is part of a long-running conservative campaign, which has already gained support. This is David Enrich from New York Times Business Bureau, which has already gained support among at least 2 justices to curtail press freedoms by attacking Sullivan. The story of how we got here is pretty wild. It's all in Murder the Truth. A lot of people are asking about the backstory of Wynn's petition. In 2018, the AP reported that he'd been accused of rape. Wynn sued for defamation. Nevada courts ruled that the reporting was protected under New York Times v. Sullivan. Wynn is appealing to SCOTUS, another casino billionaire that is in Trump's corner. Great stuff. Great to see Democrats complaining about the filibuster for 4 years when they're in power, but when they can't be bothered to use it themselves. I know.
Trump.
Leisha Miller has a Why Aren't the Democrats Doing Anything video, which we will be watching in a little bit as well. But yeah. And another scary aspect of this is that, as you guys know, I love the Internet Archive. I love the Wayback Machine. It is an immensely valuable resource. And obviously, people in positions of power have long hated this immensely valuable resource for some of the reporting that comes out of it. Some of the reporting, such as, you know, the DOGE guy, okay? The DOGE guy's racist tweets from literally 2 months ago. Now, they've been actively trying to destroy the Internet Archive, but I guess now they're just going directly to the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive, and demanding that they delete stuff. So yeah, why did the Post say, when I checked the Internet Archive an hour ago for the URLs associated with that account, the racist account, the eugenics immigration policy guy that is now reinstated. Okay, Charlie Kirk is your dad. I watched him slam you in a debate the other day. If you watched that debate and you thought Charlie Kirk slammed me, I think you need to stop slamming your head into walls. I am genuinely concerned about your safety. I assume that your entire house is padded to ensure that you don't accidentally kill yourself while, you know, getting out of bed in the morning. Anyway, now there are a total of 2 saved URLs left, and the archive tweets I still have in my browser cache are excluded. Everything referenced in the Wall Street Journal reporting has been purged. This is all that is left visible. They're rapidly scrubbing the record on this, so all that's left is a Wall Street Journal recap that everyone references and can't verify. It's great. Great stuff happening on that front in terms of, you know, destroying the truth. Yeah, we already covered this MHUD, the other DOGE kid who leaked potentially proprietary information when at a cybersecurity firm. And 940 with another 10 gifted subs. Yeah. I obviously disagree with some of Elez's posts, but I don't think stupid social media activity should ruin a kid's life. We shouldn't reward journalists who try to destroy people ever. So I say bring him back. If he's a bad dude or a terrible member of the team, fire him for that. Yeah, he will be brought back. To err is human, to forgive divine. Great stuff. Yeah, he's changed a lot. It's just a continued lapse of judgment.
And Elon Musk's drive to reshape and slim down the federal government. Hours before a midnight deadline, a judge temporarily blocked the buyout that's been offered to some federal employees. Senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is tracking this from the White House. Good morning, Rachel.
Rebecca, good morning to you. And at least 60,000.
Oh, speaking of like going after information, going after reporting the truth, aside from the New York Times v. Sullivan court case that we just talked about, another thing that I suspect they're going to start doing is actively go after reporters that cover ICE raids and leak ICE activity before it happens. This is something that Thomas Homan has been very angry about. They might even go so far as to make it illegal to tell undocumented migrants what kind of rights they have. Now, of course, I won't stop doing this. I won't stop reporting on this stuff, but I'm just letting you know that that is what I suspect is going to happen, because they're very upset that undocumented migrants that they're trying to falsely imprison and detain and deport for no reason whatsoever are actually aware of their rights. And that is very frustrating because they can't easily violate their Fourth Amendment rights. Makes it much more difficult for ICE to do their job because their job revolves around the violation of people's Fourth Amendment rights. Anyway, here's a judge that put a freeze on Trump's federal buyout plan.
1,000 people opted into this buyout program from the federal government. But this morning, the judge putting that on pause right before the deadline. It's prompting widespread confusion for those who want to resign and those who want to stay on the job.
This morning, widespread confusion for federal workers. It's been just over a week since 2 million federal employees received this email with a stark choice: resign now and be paid through September, or run the risk of being laid off.
It's just all kind of a mess.
Shonda Loader, a mother of 2 in Kentucky, works for the Department of Veterans Affairs. She took the offer, but hasn't gotten any clarity since.
New data shows that the majority of the 8,200 people arrested by ICE have no criminal conviction of any kind. Oh, what? What? That's crazy. Dude, I'm so shocked. Thank God for fucking ProPublica, by the way. This is what I've been saying from day one. Okay? Remember, I was like, where are the journalists? Why are they not logging through all of this data to figure out if these guys actually have any sort of criminal convictions whatsoever? Because the first couple of weeks of ICE activity was immediately met with onboarded Fox News commentators that were doing ride-alongs during these deportation processes and claiming that these were some of the biggest, some of the most prolific rapists of all time. Okay? One of the guys that they detained at an immigration court hearing was a DACA recipient who is a middle school teacher in Florida. This happened yesterday. All the most prolific rapists work at Fox News or own it? Exactly. Yeah, I told you. The notion that they're like going after criminals aggressively is ridiculous. And by the way, 50% of them have no criminal convictions whatsoever. And I'm willing to bet that the remainder, okay, the overwhelming majority of those who have any sort of criminal acts in their past are probably for minor things, like the guy we saw in Guatemala who literally was in the country for 15 years and they got him on trespass. Like, he was deported for trespassing. Okay? Yeah, also in terms of the criminal prosecutions that are coming down for reporting on ICE activity, okay? The FCC is now investigating San Francisco radio station that shared the location of undercover ICE agents. Wonderful stuff. The Federal Communications Commission has launched an investigation into KCBS radio after the San Francisco station broadcast information on live locations of undercover U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents in San Jose. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr told Fox News that the commission has sent a formal letter of inquiry to the station in response to its January 26th discussion of ICE operations, which he called really concerning. He said that the station had a matter of days left to explain how this could possibly be consistent with their public interest obligations under the FCC license. You had ICE agents undercover doing operations in East San Jose and part of the town known for violent gang activity, and you had this radio station broadcasting a live location, identifying the unmarked vehicles that they were in. Have you talked about the Kanye tweets? Not yet. I will get to it. Also, it is utterly irrelevant that Kanye West is once again, behaving like a neo-Nazi in an effort to pump some attention to his upcoming shitty-ass album, okay? There is no one that is this washed. It is the final stage of being washed. I'm sorry, okay? It is utterly ridiculous. He is so fucking washed that he is just simply trying to do the lowest form of attention seeking, which is rage baiting. It is like, it's like when a child is screaming, okay, and shitting in their diapers to get attention. Except this time the child is 50 years old, okay? I think he's just a Nazi now. He has psychosis, not rage bait. Yeah, it's weird that he wasn't tweeting about being a Nazi in the interim. And right up until he decides that, he has a new album coming out, or if he has to do like cryptocurrency or some shit, like right up until the moment where he decides that he needs to be in the public eye again, is he manic? Yes. Okay. Did that make him more vulnerable to believing ridiculous conspiracies or becoming a neo-Nazi? I'm sure it did. Having said that, however, the timing of this is awfully suspicious. Okay. Jesus Christ. Let's get back to this for now, okay? We're talking about a group of Gestapo soldiers actively coming after the so-called free press in the United States of America, where the First Amendment is supposed to protect this sort of thing, okay? And going to another federal regulatory agency to basically take away their broadcasting license because they don't like what they're broadcasting. Do you understand where we're at right now? You're talking about fucking Kanye West. Like, who gives a shit? Is Kai still collaborating? Again, doubly who gives a shit? Like, this is what I mean. You just want drama, okay? I don't know. Why would I know that? Why would I know the answer to whether or not fucking Kai is going to still collaborate with Kanye West? Like, what a stupid fucking question. Democracy is falling apart, or the theoretical democracy, what is remaining of theoretical democracy is falling apart, and you're like, is Kai still collaborating with Kanye West? I don't know. What the fuck? Go ask him when he's live. It says in the Constitution is woke is expressly not allowed. Anyway, ridiculous shit. On January 26th, the host of KCBS Radio Weekend News shared the location of agents and the vehicles they were in based on the information from the Rapid Response Network in Santa Clara County, a community organization developed to protect immigrant families from deportation threats. The county's response network says that agents in San Jose were in unmarked vehicles, the host said, describing the color, make, and model of the vehicles before listing the streets and locations they were spotted, which is awesome that they were doing that, by the way. Respect. The Communications Act of 1934 requires that broadcast licenses operate in the public interest, convenience, and necessity. The FCC reserves the right to fine a station or revoke his license if it's found in violation of the public interest standard. How is that not in the public interest? It is directly in the public interest. Trump first appointed Carr to serve on the FCC in 2017 and tapped him to lead the commission in November. During his interview with Fox and Friends on Thursday, Carr said he was trying to look on the bright side, which is that an unprecedented number of deportations have taken place, and for that, thank goodness for President Trump. Fox host Brian Kilmeade noted that Carr previously opposed the effort of billionaire George Soros, a vocal supporter of Democratic candidates and causes, to become the majority shareholder of Audacity by purchasing $400 million of its debt in 2024. The FCC approved this restructuring of Audacity in September. You think more than 48 hours after the start of ICE raids in Denver, Aurora, we'd know just how many people were detained and then taken into custody. We don't. And that's now the story. Let's talk about it. 2 days ago, the feds said it was trying to arrest 100 Tren de Aragua members. I believe the number of Tren de Aragua members that were arrested is 1. Yesterday, we asked ICE how many were detained. Seems like a simple request. Fox News, after all, had reported 30. Keep in mind, Fox has a reason to know. They had a team embedded with ICE on Wednesday. Problem is, 30 was nowhere near 100. But what's even more telling is that as of now, ICE has confirmed that just 1 Tren de Aragua member was detained on Wednesday. 1 is quite a bit less than the 100 that they wanted. We also don't know how they concluded that there were 100 plus Tren de Aragua targets to begin with. It is clear that the Trump administration is trying to spin this as a story about a leak. I addressed this yesterday. So yeah, I'm going to talk about this right now. The Aurora, Colorado situation. Okay. If you recall, the story became one of national prominence when virtually everyone on right-wing media, okay, virtually everyone on right-wing media, or without any evidence whatsoever, relying on a slumlord claiming that a Venezuelan gang had overtaken his apartments. Now, of course, this CBZ management, sorry, that ran a bunch of different slumlords. Sorry, not a bunch of different slumlords. Ran a bunch of different slums. Why are we not talking about Kanye West? Because I will get to it later, and it is, you know what? I'm gonna fucking permaban you, you dumb fuck. Okay, just a couple more times, fucking idiot. We're gonna get to it inevitably. You won't be able to chat, okay? Because I'm a political commentator, and there's more pressing matters to cover, like the one I'm talking about currently. Anyway, so they try to do this thing where they try to make a big show of this falsehood. Initially, it was built around a slumlord who managed a bunch of slum properties, low-income housing, that were in a dire state, so much so that the local government there had sued the slums and actually declared it unsafe to live inside of these slums because of how awful the situation was. These management company had gotten thousands of complaints across numerous properties that they manage, not simply the one in Aurora, Colorado. Okay? Just remember that. But it did not matter. It didn't matter. They still kept going with this narrative that, like, oh, well, despite the fact that another one of the properties was actually investigated and found to be uninhabitable years before Venezuelans actually even came to Aurora, Colorado. And the second court case that came down for this famous property came down before Venezuelans actually, quote unquote, took over this Aurora, Colorado slum, right? But everybody went along with it. You don't treat the people who bought you that house well, do you? No, I don't. Okay, Stalin, I don't. And the reason why I don't, and the reason why you permanently got banned, is because you're selfish. There are 33,540 people in here, okay? You're being unimaginably selfish and going, me, 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 me. Please, cover me. Cover what I want. Cover what I want you to cover. Okay? Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculously selfish for the 33,500 other people in the chat. Okay? Narcissistic. Anyway, I believe there's some really good local news reporting on this, and I wanna pull it up and watch the reporting. But basically, Fox News is straight up like doing even more nefariously than in the past. Fox News is just doing straight up propaganda. Okay? Now, the difference here, unlike in the past, is that Fox News is doing this propaganda under its objective reporting wing. Okay? Initially, Fox News used to do this on the editorial side, but now they're doing onboarding, and they're supposed to have an objective news reporting side, and their objective news reporting side is also doing egregious propaganda. Okay? It's ridiculous. So I'm glad that ProPublica has been tasked with at least figuring out what the truth is. Micah Rosenberg writes, alongside Perla Treviso, that Trump's immigration policies and what has been tried before, data we obtained shows less than half of the 8,200 arrests from January 20th to February 2nd have criminal convictions. Okay? Cool Denver article. No, I want the specific Denver local news video coverage on this because it was pretty good. I don't care what side of the debate you're on. If you're in favor of the raids, you should want to know if there are more than performative acts. Here. Oh, this is the one. Yes, thank you. The local
head of
here, look at this.
Homeland Security Investigations Denver office framed raids across the metro area in simple terms.
These actions were targeted operation focused on violent criminal aliens.
Bro, why does he also sound like Tom Homan? Why does everybody at the Department of Homeland Security sound exactly like Tom Homan? And look, they're so ogre coded.
TDA members, and those who are a threat to our public safety.
What he would not say was how many people they arrested, how many were wanted for serious crimes, how many were members of that Venezuelan gang. We know more about a raid 11 days ago in Adams County, where federal agents said they were looking for dangerous criminals with guns and drugs and handed out video of the arrests.
I think the people in the city of Denver woke up today to a safer city.
The Drug Enforcement Administration's top Denver agent hit the airwaves.
These are dangerous criminals. You've seen from those videos that came out of Aurora a few months ago. These guys are carrying pistols and AK-47. These are serious bad guys.
Now, 9 News Investigates has confirmed that no criminal charges have been filed against anyone in that case. None by the U.S. Attorney.
Dangerous criminals with AK-47s. And all they did basically was go door to door, harass and try to detain random people that they suspect of committing the crime of being brown while living on U.S. soil.
None by the Adams County District Attorney.
It should surprise everyone that we're using government resources like the DEA to go and round up people who have no criminal legal case against them.
Laura Lunn is an attorney with the Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network, and she says there's a very big difference between facing a criminal charge and being held for an immigration violation.
Immigration detention is civil detention.
Civil detention, where people seemingly disappear. Without a name, there's no way to find out who's being held or what they're accused of.
I think it's very intentional that people in immigration proceedings are detained so that folks don't have access to them to gain information about what their experience is.
One of my comrades is a teacher. The parents of one of their students never showed up to pick them up from school. They now have family friends watching them. Still aren't sure what happened to the parents. There were raids yesterday in my apartment complex. I live in Aurora, Colorado. Also, I will be picketing in solidarity at my local King Super this week for the Kroger union strike. Yeah. They're going door to door. They're doing door to door operations and basically trying to snag as many people as they possibly can.
Road offer. Checking out the massive and quite weird eagle population on the edge of the
no, this is the
said they only made yesterday. Members of the
This is all of the cover.
Results announced today by Fox News Channel. ICE agents said they were going after 100 members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua in Denver and Aurora yesterday. Now, while the feds refused to tell journalists just how many arrests they made and how many of them were TDA members, the Fox News reporter embedded with agents said they only made 30 arrests and just one was a TDA member. Fox News and the Trump administration are now blaming local media outlets for the lack of success.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say. This is the other angle of this that I wanted to cover. They're claiming that the reason why they can't actually apprehend these like crazy criminals is not because they're not really interested in apprehending these, you know, really violent, crazy criminals or whatever, and simply trying to do a racist dragnet, despite the fact that they're claiming that they're going after these like super violent criminals. It's because the media is reporting on it. And it's leaking it. It's leaking it ahead of time. And then, you know, everybody gets to run away.
It certainly felt like everybody knew this was coming, including the targets and the local media.
There were some leaks from local media that tipped off the local activists on the ground, and it made your jobs difficult.
We've already identified how this operation got leaked. I'll deal with that today.
Immigrant communities in Denver and Aurora have been expecting yesterday's raids ever since Donald Trump campaigned on a promise that he would start his mass deportation here. Many of the properties involved in the raids were also no-brainers. They're linked to CBZ Management, the landlords that made national headlines by claiming takeovers by the Venezuelan gang. And as those raids played out publicly for hours yesterday, community members and activists gathered to heckle agents from afar, shouting legal advice to the people inside apartments as agents went door to door asking people for their papers.
Interesting. I can't seem to put my finger on what this reminds me of, you know? Straight Nazi shit. That's what.
Today, Trump's border czar Tom Homan threatened federal prosecutions for people he says are...
What happens if you don't open the door? Nothing. Nothing. And you shouldn't. Okay? It is illegal for them to break in unless they have a search warrant. Okay? That's it. The fact that they're just like trying to go to every single person door to door with the hopes that they can nab someone who is not aware of their rights, their constitution protected rights, is ridiculous. They need a search warrant signed by a judge to be able to go into your home. Okay?
Are impeding their operations. Now, the feds say they were targeting violent criminals. We continue to ask just how many of the people arrested in Colorado yesterday were violent criminals, as opposed to people who had civil immigration violations and were picked up because they couldn't show papers.
Why are you adding Zach Rohr in my chat? Zach Rohr, why are you saying that like it's not literally what MAGA believes? I think you're in the wrong chat, chatter.
Suggested today that the lack of success in this week's raids means more non-criminals will be arrested in the future.
You go on these operations, the operation got leaked somehow, it makes us less successful. Again, when you leak an operation, it means more bad guys are not being arrested, which means more bad guys are walking the streets. So as we address that, you're going to see the arrests increase. As the aperture opens up beyond criminals, you're going to see more arrests.
So let's look more closely now at the Trump administration's claim that this week's ICE raids failed because the local media in Colorado leaked the operation. You may recall that multiple national media outlets reported that these raids were supposed to happen last Thursday. That operation was apparently pushed back after it became widely known ahead of the fact. Our Evan Krugel's along now to explain that when these raids did happen, Evan, federal agents had Fox News along for the ride, and this was a pretty conspicuous parade around town.
It was, Kyle. It's worth noting ICE did very little to hide or disguise those operations yesterday. We got multiple calls from community members who saw them staging in a large parking lot in southeast Denver. So we showed up and decided to follow at a distance as they made their way up I-25 to Thornton.
This local reporting is fantastic, by the way, and I'm so glad that there are still people out there doing real fucking journalism. Holy shit.
It was clear even before sunrise Wednesday that ICE operations were underway. Agents gathered with buses and armored vehicles in high-traffic retail parking lots, including one in southeast Denver, where a photojournalist and I found a convoy and followed it more than 20 miles down I-25 to Thornton, where officers spent another hour prepping an armored vehicle as a cable news channel tagged along for the ride. It didn't take long for people to see them and for activists to show up at the park.
And what is happening with President Donald Trump is that he is, and his administration is, creating a spectacle.
Kareem El-Damanhouri is a journalism professor at DU and says he was not surprised to see such a visible operation and to see select national media invited along to showcase it. He says look no further than President Trump's campaign promise in October to target Colorado.
We will have an Operation Aurora at the federal level.
NBC reported the operation was supposed to start last week, but it was pushed back after the plans became public.
The operation was leaked, and again, we're going to hold those people accountable once we find out what those leaks occurred. This isn't a game.
Border Czar Tom Homan said Wednesday's operation was less successful because of supposed leaks.
We may have to stop the media ride-alongs because I'm not pointing the finger at them, but the less people that know about these operations, the safer it is for our agents.
Some leaks can be harmful to certain operations, some leaks aren't. So it's just a matter of social responsibility in a way, both by the politicians and by the media. So it applies both ways.
El-Damanhouri says journalists will play an important role in the weeks to come as we wait to find out how many people were actually arrested and why.
People tend to forget, or certain things tend to dissipate. So this is, again, role of the journalist to try to follow up on those type of stories and find out, what has been going on, what are the updates of people who might have been caught up in the midst of that.
To be clear, we as an organization are not accepting any invitations for ride-alongs with immigration officials at this time. We will, however, continue to respond and report on what we see at those operations. Kyle.
Another thing that I heard today on Fox News was surprised that when the immigration agents got to some of these infamous apartments in Aurora, that they were largely empty. I mean, we've been talking about in the local media for months now that a lot of people have moved out of those problematic apartments. That's been going on for some time.
Yeah, they did this specifically. Because they wanted to make a show of it. Most of the immigration enforcement actions that you're seeing all the way from the messaging surrounding it, constantly claiming that these are like really, really violent criminals and whatnot, is all done to basically beef up the Trump agenda and to justify increased enforcement. Okay, that's why they're lying and claiming that they're apprehending violent criminals when in fact they're not doing that. They're actually just going after whoever they catch that is undocumented or sometimes literally documented, but are not a natural born U.S. citizen, like the DACA middle school teacher that was apprehended at a immigration court proceeding. Like that's a documented immigrant. That is not an undocumented migrant. That is a documented immigrant. Okay, that's crazy. They're also detaining people for speaking Spanish and not having paperwork on them. So even if you are a documented natural-born American who happens to be speaking Spanish, you can still be detained. That should probably reveal to all of you what the actual intention is here. They're going after tribal members, Native Americans. Think about that. Think about what that means, why that's happening.
Yeah, the edge at Lowry, Whispering Pines, these were pretty obvious places for operations to begin. We still don't know why they made their way to Thornton, to that mobile home park. You heard Fox News. They had some information from ICE on who they were going after there. We repeatedly pressed ICE for that information today and did not get it, Kyle. That will be a big story here. Who gets information moving forward and when?
Yep, because at the end of the day, public wants to know what's going on, right? Yep. That's the end of the story. All right, Evan Krugel, thank you. There's finally been a conviction for.
Anyway, that's the end of that. That's the end of that. Tamam. My mom's trying to talk to me. This badass lady is cursing ICE on Fox News. Anyway, oh yeah, when they did the Operation Ride Along, like the locals were shitting on ICE apparently too. Here, let's watch
ICE
this.
was met by activists who taunted them and others who used megaphones to coach those living inside. Agents used flashbangs inside while serving a warrant. That led to a handful of arrests, but no TDA gang members. A stop at another apartment complex netted no arrests.
That first woman in the parking lot holding her coffee cup and cussing them out, they described her as an activist. I don't know, maybe she is. Looked to me like a super annoyed neighbor who was angry to see a bunch of ICE agents dressed up like the 82nd Airborne in her apartment building's parking lot. The day after that footage was released, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, announced that these media ride-alongs might be coming to an end because of operational security.
Yeah. They thought they could get away with captive media. They thought they could get away with like Fox News onboarding on these things to make them look cool and badass and just do propaganda. And then, obviously it shows the depravity, the moral depravity of the entire situation. So they might actually stop these highly televised, publicized media ride-alongs. It's truly insane what is going on right now. The fact that we don't have accurate information instantly on the detentions and how many of them are violent criminals and what kind of crimes they have been charged with, whether or not there has been a court process. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned this when I was in Japan as well. A lot of people got mad at me when we were looking at the first ICE ride-alongs that Fox News did. If you recall, the question I had was, who are these people? And if they are truly violent criminals that went through the court system and were convicted of doing crimes, why were they walking free? I don't want violent rapists, no matter what their background is, whether they are of Venezuelan origin or homegrown white rapists, to walk freely on the streets after they have been charged. Okay? And especially after they've been convicted. So what happened here? Because if the Republican administration's propaganda on this matter was correct, okay, they would have a significant upper hand, okay? They would have a tremendous opportunity to propagandize by saying, this guy is a convicted rapist and Joe Biden's activist courts and Joe Biden's activist judges allowed him to roam freely because he was undocumented. If that was the truth and not simply a lie that they present, then oh my God, that would be a fantastic opportunity. You can't even find one. You can't find one guy. That's all you guys claim. That's what that's what the right wing is claiming, that activist judges allow undocumented migrants to walk freely after being caught doing heinous crimes. Okay? They're being caught doing heinous crimes, and activist judges are just letting it happen. And that there are 20 million migrants, undocumented, living on U.S. soil that are all responsible for death and destruction. And for some reason, they're just walking away free. Okay? If that was real, that would be an insane revelation. That would be massive. So why is there no evidence to show that? Why is the only thing that we have to rely on Fox News onboarding and doing ride-alongs with ICE, where they basically put the camera on someone and claim that they're a rapist? Why is there no paperwork that we can look at? That's why I think the ProPublica reporting on this is very important. They actually dove into the data and found that with the increased ICE immigrant raids, they've actually detained 8,200 people so far for deportation, and more than half of them had no criminal records whatsoever. That directly contradicts the argument that the Trump administration was making, that they're only going after violent criminals, except 4,000 plus were not criminals at all. The Trump agenda is exactly the same as the first go around. Declare a national emergency at the border, halt refugee admissions, end catch and release, make asylum seekers wait in Mexico for U.S. hearings, promote third country asylum agreements, DNA test some of the immigrants, expand who was targeted for deportation, okay? Focus Homeland Security investigations on immigration enforcement instead of, like, literally pull from other aspects of Homeland Security, like actual drug detentions, like units that are tasked with investigating drug-related drug trafficking are now tasked with doing dragnet operations on random immigrant neighborhoods. Think about that. Expansion of expedited removal, put pressure on recalcitrant countries to take back deportees, create an office to assist victims of crimes committed by immigrants, limit temporary protected status, increase scrutiny of work permits, target sanctuary jurisdiction, information sharing, denying public benefits to unauthorized immigrants, travel bans, denaturalizing U.S. citizens is like the final stage of this. Actively trying to do that is going to be the last aspect of this. Expulsion based on public health concerns. A version of this already occurred with the CDC move. Donald Trump kept saying COVID is fake, it's not real, whatever. But it was simply used as a tool to deny immigrants access into the country. Title 42, if you recall, was the only COVID prevention measure that the administration actually utilized. Deploy military troops to the border, build border barriers, land acquisition for border barriers, ramping up criminal prosecutions of people crossing the border illegally, expanding detention, local cooperation for immigration enforcement, increase immigration agent hiring, and enhance vetting. Policies he hasn't tried before that he wants to are ending birthright citizenship, making the border a military priority, seeking to end birthright citizenship and Biden-era humanitarian programs at the border, immigrant registration, invokes a law requires all non-citizens to register and present their fingerprints to the U.S. government or be subject to criminal penalties, ending and clawing back funding from organizations that support migrants, designating international drug cartels and gangs as terrorists so they can further deny habeas corpus, deny due process to the people that are being prosecuted for criminal activity. And, then you can fucking torture them and stuff too. The problem here always, as is the case with all matter of criminal enforcement, is that once you take away those constitutional rights, you are going to apprehend people that you claim are gang members, and now you're treating them like terrorists. Terrorism already is a vague designation created specifically to deny people their human rights anyway. I'm a denaturalized citizen, and it scares me that this could actually happen. I've worked for the federal government and been a good citizen. It's pathetic that because I'm brown, I could be stripped of my citizenship. You're a denaturalized citizen? What do you mean? How do you reason with those that don't have a problem with deporting even people without criminal backgrounds because of an impression that they're taking a decent money out of our taxes? It's incorrect. Undocumented migrants literally put more into government coffers than they take out. There's already a limited amount of social safety nets to begin with, and undocumented migrants are not capable of taking advantage of any of those programs regardless. The only burden that undocumented migrants have on government resources is actually emergency rooms. When they get, in the off chance that they get any sort of health care whatsoever, and they go into an emergency room and then they don't actually pay. It's just factually wrong. Yes, it is. Billy D right-wing turn. What?
USAID
Why?
has been propping up sites like Politico, giving them stealing walkthrough. This whole debacle, it started.
I doubt that he's saying he's anti. Wait, what? Yeah, no, you're crazy if you think
Like
that
propping
Philip
up sites
DeFranco is gonna do right-wing misinformation on USAID. You're on crack. No, he's baiting you in. That's funny.
Politico, giving them $8 million in taxpayer funds in just one fiscal
Philly D is a massive lib, chatters.
year, meaning the Politico is state-funded media stealing from you, the taxpayer. Except that isn't really accurate. And the truth, it turns out, is much less sinister. So let's walk through it. This whole debacle, it started when Politico was late with the payroll this week. And that, thanks to what they said, was a technical error that was resolved by the end of the day, so everyone got paid. But then what we saw is that with that, you had posts including screenshots from a government website tracking federal spending showing that Politico received $8 million from the government in the 2024 fiscal year. With former Fox News producer Kyle Becker sharing these screenshots and saying, fun fact, Politico received USAID funds. Receiving
Dude, this is such a funny, I think this is such a funny cope. USAID does pay journalists, okay? Except they pay foreign journalist operations that are tasked with undermining whatever foreign adversary or, sometimes even spreading misinformation about foreign adversaries, okay? They don't need to pay American journalists to do the bidding, okay? They don't. American journalists literally do it because that is the profession. Their job is to literally do State Department propaganda anyway. That's how they do it for free. Well, not for free. They get paid for their jobs. But yes, Voice of America is different than Politico. That's who actually gets paid for it. In case you're out of the loop, people like Asman believe that the government basically smeared Gamergate. What? People think that domestic news producers actually were paid by the government to attack gamers? Like the government was doing Gamergate? I quit. I have to. I can't do this any longer. I think I might be done. I think we have officially reached a level of stupidity that I could not foresee us ever reaching. This is the dumbest, most self-involved, most self-entitled, most self-elevated story of all time. If you truly believe this, if you even entertain this as a thought, okay, you have to be institutionalized for your own safety. This is the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. Chattels, people will learn about Operation Mockingbird, and then they'll turn around and be like, well, this was still continuing with Gamergate. Right here. Asman Gold hits the nail on the head about woke journalists. I want these people to suffer because that's what they did to me. What goes around comes around, and we're coming. You should have left my video games alone.
I'll show you. People think I'm fucking crazy. I'm not. Look at this. People wonder our tax.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Dude, what's ironic is something, dude, if you ask me one more time if something is going on with YouTube, I'm just going to end the broadcast. I don't know what the fuck you're asking. Why do you keep asking this? Is YouTube being hacked right now? I can't open it. Something going on with YouTube? Is something going on with YouTube? Am I Google? Do I look like Google to you? Why do you keep spamming? Is something going on with YouTube? Look, you are one of my primary news sources other than what I read in my email, so this is just breaking. I'm asking you because I really want background noise while I watch you because I'm mentally ill, like I will not deny. So I'm simply wondering if you know why YouTube is down. If you do not know, that is okay. I will shut up. That's a sincere answer. It's still stupid. Please. I am not Google. What is happening? Chatters will have a personal issue with their own computer and will come in here and be like, can you please answer my question? Should I turn my computer on and off? Anyway, getting back to the most pressing issue of all time, how Politico actually got paid by the federal government to undermine gamers, which is really funny because the exact opposite actually happened, where someone actually did work with gamers in general and was very closely associated with Donald Trump. His name is Steve Bannon. And he actively used Breitbart to try to drum up Gamergate narratives, knowing full well that it would be very helpful. They'd be willing participants who would be helpful in doing propaganda for the Trump administration if he were to win. This is literally real. So if there's one aspect of the government that has been pro-gamer, it is Steve Bannon and the Trump administration by way of Steve Bannon. Remember that this is the average American IQ before the Department of Education is dismantled. Gamergates being freaks and then being mad at people covering them being freaks. Yeah, how could they have done this to me?
People wonder, are tax dollars used to promote wokeness in video games? Answer is yes. USAID paid Politico millions of dollars a year to write pieces like this one, which promotes diversity and describes Gamergate as...
Dude, oh my God. This is just wrong, man. I don't know how to explain it. It's just fucking wrong. Okay? The worst part about it is that things like what they are suspecting with USAID have occurred in the past in terms of like the State Department aligning itself with media directly, the CIA actively infiltrating American media as well in an effort to manufacture consent. Nowadays, it's more nefarious. Nowadays, there is no direct involvement, especially when it comes to domestic media, okay? Or the direct involvement is out in the open when you have a guy like John Bolton speak on CNN, okay? And say things like, yeah, I've done a lot of coups. In terms of USAID, they paid for a subscription-based service similar to a Bloomberg terminal, okay? Politico Pro. It's real-time. It's a real-time newswire. That's it. It's worse than what these guys suspect. They don't need to pay Politico to do pro-State Department propaganda, okay? Dude, who is even on your side amongst political streamers? Are you on your own? There's plenty of awesome political content creators and political streamers in general that recognize the truth. Okay. How is he so popular, man? Is it that easy? Yes, it is that easy. Straight up. Claiming that the USAID actually funded Politico to write articles and influence articles, specifically targeting gamers, by the way, okay, is like saying they actually funded Microsoft to also target gamers because they bought Excel. They bought Microsoft Word subscriptions. I can't believe it. How deep does this rabbit hole go? It's ironic, though, because the real way that there is like active glad handling happening with American media when they're covering domestic issues and the American government is done by way of access journalism. There are a million different ways in which the government could also actively fund these outlets as well. Whether it be giving them grants or whether it be, buying advertising space if they chose to do so. And they do that sort of stuff anyway. Doing it through USAID would be one of the silliest ways to do it.
As disinformation and harassment campaign. So this is the thing, guys.
Yeah. They covered Gamergate because USAID has a designated task force in between trying to, I don't know, undermine the Cuban government by setting up like a fake internet, okay? Or I don't know, another failed initiative where they try to like task rappers in rapping about how Fidel Castro sucks or whatever, on Cuban soil. They're actually on the weekends spending time attacking gamers. Nobody gives a fuck. In the grand scheme of things, nobody cares about gamers. If you think that there's this level of interest in the government oppressing gamers, you are out of your mind. I don't know what to tell you. I cannot believe that this is like actual commentary on the realm of politics, and it's getting a lot of motion. It's 700,000 views. Yeah, the U.S. government made Stellar Blade's titties smaller. We must investigate. We are the most persecuted minority. I can't believe that we've gotten here. This is reality now.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
That's where we're at now. Like, low key, this is not even something shit that we used to joke about in terms of like, oh no, you came after gamers, is like unironically a rallying call now. Okay, it's no longer a meme, it's reality. People do legitimately believe this. It's crazy. Yeah, Asmongold is the Fred Hampton of Gamergate. Okay, a real threat to the established order is gamers. The American government does not want you to jerk off to big-tittied main characters. Okay, they do not want that. They will do everything to stop that.
These people to suffer, because that's what they did to me. I want to set an example.
What did they do to Asmongold? Like, what is happening? What have they done to Asmongold? They made his games bad? Oh my God.
Get rid of these people. Put them like completely out of their jobs. Get rid of them. Make an example of them. Say, listen, this is what happens. Gamers rise up. What goes around? Yep, what goes around comes.
How did they, someone in the chat said, how do they make you suffer?
Comes around, and we're coming.
4 years of a destruction of my favorite games. Fight fire with fire. Like, this reads as a parody. And if someone had actually sent this to me as a joke and they were like, look, Asmongold is doing parody of like the sweatiest nerd you've ever seen. Isn't this funny? I'd be like, yeah, this is actually pretty good. It's pretty solid in terms of parody. Turns out it's not. This is something truly, this is something that like, you know, lolly PFP accounts unironically believe. I don't know. I really don't understand. Can you explain, please, what's happening? Here, let me uncover the layers of misinformation. Number one, USAID's funding gets cut. The Trump administration rolls back USAID initiatives. Okay, USAID, created by AFK, is a separate department that is tasked with doing aid all around the world. A big chunk of that is to beef up America's soft power capabilities. But also, a big chunk of that is also to engage in covert operations at the behest of the CIA to engage in foreign destabilization against our foreign adversaries. Okay? Which leads me to be confused by Trump's decision overall, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Anyway, so obviously the aid for soft power or even to, defend American destabilization in other nations is still actively a good. And you can't have that, okay? According to the Trump administration, you can't do something that helps people, even if it is aiding a larger cause that will end up aligning with American interests, okay? You can't do that. God forbid. Anyway, that's the first start of the story. And as Philip DeFranco also correctly explained here, there was a technical error with Politico paying their staffers. But that kickstarted the story of people claiming, oh, it's because U.S. aid was funding the entirety of Politico. Let's take a look.
Shots from a government website tracking federal spending showing that Politico received $8 million from the government in the 2024 fiscal year. With former Fox News producer Kyle Becker sharing these screenshots and saying, fun fact, Politico received USAID funds, or seemingly claiming that the $8 million came from USAID alone. And then, in a follow-up post, he connected Politico's late payroll with the recent crackdowns on USAID's spending. And from there, the situation just exploded, with big names on the right chiming in and spreading this far and wide. And even had Trump on Truth Social this morning saying that...
Yeah, that's the other aspect of this, that Donald Trump is just straight up saying that this is fact. It's not. I just want to reiterate, this is incorrect. Okay? Which is crazy. I fucking don't like Politico. I'm not the biggest fan of USAID. And here I am having to seemingly defend it because I'm not defending either of these institutions. I'm simply defending the truth. Also, double L stolen. Looks like billions of dollars have been stolen at USAID and other agencies. Much of it is going to the fake news media as a payoff for creating good stories about the Democrats. The left-wing rag known as Politico seems to have received... By the way, Politico is not a left-wing rag. Politico is not left-wing at all. What is happening here? Asman is currently doing a deep dive into the clip of you showing the Houthi war music to Nick, and Chad is eating it up. Yeah, I don't care, man. Yeah, okay. Great. Yeah, I need to get banned. This guy must get banned. Okay? This guy must get banned. Houthi propaganda, unacceptable. Nazi propaganda, well, that's all right. It's homegrown American Nazi propaganda. Okay? Saying that Politico is a left-wing institution is insane. It's owned by a right-wing German guy. Okay? And not only that, but also it's just not left-wing at all. Their coverage is not even remotely left-wing at all. It's not the point, and some people won't believe it, but Biden, White House hated Politico. When I worked there, the Biden team constantly complained that Politico embodied the problem with journalism today. Too insidery, too focused on horse race coverage scandal, and too both-sidism. They're not. Also, I'm not even... This is ironic because the Biden White House was actively and aggressively anti-media for no reason whatsoever. Okay? But he didn't want to cover the Epstein stuff. Oh yeah, Asmongold didn't want to cover the sex pestiny stuff, but he has no problem rehashing the same fucking shit over and over again. Hassan showed Nick a music video of the Houthis. I wonder why. And sex pestiny goes after Asmongold all the time, and I think it's partially because he's afraid. He's afraid of the Diddy G wrath. He does not want Diddy G coming after him. Anyway, hey, I'm sorry. Can you explain what any of this has to do with gamers, Asmon? It literally doesn't. The truth has nothing to do with gamers, Gamergate, or Asmongold. But the truth does not matter, okay? That's the point. Because Asmongold is claiming that on top of this misinformation that came out, that he wanted to add his own layer of silliness to the conversation by, I guess, reading a tweet from a Lolly account, a Lolly PFP account, that claimed that Politico was actually getting paid by USAID to do anti-gamer coverage. It's probably the most ridiculous thing that could have come out of this. It's so ridiculous. I feel like even the Fox News people would laugh at this shit. You spending all 2025 on media literacy of your colleagues? What do you want me to do, man? What do you want me to do? One, you guys sent me this link. And two, Asmongold is currently the biggest political content creator on this platform. Okay?
Billions have been stolen from federal agencies like USAID and gone to, quote, fake news media as a payroll for creating good stories about the Democrats, and then adding, this could be the biggest scandal of them all. Perhaps
also still stems from misinformation coming from the fucking president. So it's not like Asmongold is just like making shit up on his own. Okay? He's adding on to the pre-existing fake bullshit that's running around.
Biggest in history. But then, with all this, there's been a whole lot of pushback against this narrative. With, for example, the Washington Post pointing out that if you look deeper into the government spending website, you'll see that USAID gave Politico only $44,000 during the fiscal years of 2023 and 2024. Right, and that was reportedly for subscriptions to an energy and environment publication that the company produces. And then that $8 million, right, the amount the entire government spent on Politico last year, most of that reportedly came from contracts from subscriptions to their premium services. In fact, you had the Post reporting that just days ago, the White House's Office of the National Cyber Director signed a $35,000 contract for a Politico Pro premium subscription for 15 users. With that service, tracking, analyzing, and providing updates on the entire public policy landscape. I mean, for example, the Post reports that committees led by Republicans dropped $500,000 on Politico subscriptions in the first 9 months of last year, with 38 Republicans in the House reportedly spending $300,000 for subscriptions within the same time period. But follow to stay in the loop.
Yeah, that's it. USAID is not funding Politico. Politico does pro-State Department propaganda because that's what the American media is tasked with doing. They don't need to get paid directly by the government. They don't need to be incentivized in that way. The incentive structure nowadays is simply elevating people who already get that level of access. The incentive structure revolves around access. They play ball with the government and beef up government narratives and rarely ever undermine the established hierarchy, because those are the people that get elevated to the top. Okay? They are stenographers. But in terms of like the USAID paying for a political subscription, Politico Pro subscription, that makes sense. What do you want me to do? I don't know. Use your position as someone with money to do on-the-ground journalism. You could be the only person live streaming the barricade of the Department of Education, but you're home. Do you have a teleportation device? Do you understand that news teams have thousands of people that they employ so they can be everywhere all at once to do on-the-ground reporting? I'm a commentator. That's why I say I'm not a journalist. Sometimes I do engage in journalism, okay, do some original reporting. But if you think I would be capable of flying to every single event before it even happens, you fundamentally misunderstand how travel works or how logistics work. Your haters are the dumbest people alive. I know. This is not my issue. I don't think you understand how any of this stuff works. Yeah. Let me just hop on a plane. And instead of doing news commentary and informing the public on what's going on as to the best of my ability, I should be flying around the country every single day, nonstop. It's pretty funny because, like, you also want me to be at the barricade of the Department of Education, which is probably one of the most low. It's literally one of the dumbest fucking stories to actually fly anywhere to do. There's ice raids happening. You could have said you could fly to Colorado and try to report on the ice raids, but instead you were like, why don't you go to the barricade of the Department of Education, which basically shows the limits to your processing power to begin with. Anyway, is USAID something that was exclusively used by the Democrats? No, of course not. What? No, obviously not. No, it is just like everything else with foreign interference or foreign policy is uniparty. It's bipartisan. Something tells me they weren't saying that in good faith. I know, but it doesn't matter because that person actually succeeded. Because there's always, and this is a consistent thing that's always occurred in this community especially, which is a chatter with no genuine intention whatsoever says some of the dumbest things that anyone has ever said, okay? And launches it as though it's constructive criticism, and a long-term community member will immediately defend it and be like, nah, that's actually sick. Why don't you do that? Anyway, baiting clip. That's what Epstein and ZZZ does. All right, let's continue. The Trump Vance department just approved $7.41 billion in weapons sales to Israel. $6.75 billion in bombs and weapons guidance kits, $660 million in Hellfire missiles. This sale will increase interoperability with U.S. forces, the administration writes. Good thing we're taking money out of like cholera medication or, combating famine on the U.S. aid stuff so that we can open up our coffers for unlimited funds to Israel more. I think they were being genuine and you're being defensive because they're right. I love you. See, this is what I meant. I love you in the stream, but you're kind of spinning your wheels here. If you want to call out the useless Dems not pushing through that guy, maybe it's time to be the person to encourage. Protesting a little too much, man. They're kind of right, though. Love you, but like this is spinning your wheels. Why not? Remember what I said? That's why that chatter said that thing, because there's like a bunch of schizophrenic losers in the chat that will immediately go, actually, I do agree. The logistics of this is virtually impossible, but I think you should be doing that. This doesn't work. Okay, what you're describing is logistically impossible. There is a reason why news media operations and newsrooms hire journalists literally around the fucking planet. What you are describing is impossible. Please, you respond to bait. I know. I respond to this kind of stuff because I want people to open up their minds a little bit, okay, and try to comprehend like the limits. I understand you can't take a supersonic flight there literally right now. Okay, let's say tomorrow breaking news occurs in Washington, D.C. Should I be flying to Washington, D.C. tomorrow as soon as the breaking news occurs? What do you think? How do you think this would work? Walk me through this. Fast travel is not within my capability, okay? I stream 8 hours a day for 7 days out of the fucking week. I flew to Japan and I still kept up my news coverage in Japan. I came back the next day and still kept up my news coverage the next day. How do you foresee me flying to every area where news is happening in real time? Do you think I have teleportation capabilities? Do you think I'm clairvoyant? Do you think I can see the future, for example? Can I see the future and predict where news is going to occur so I can fly there in real time as fast as I can? How am I supposed to do that? Why do you think the New York Times employs 7,000 journalists if one guy could technically do all of this on their own? Why are these silly guys hiring thousands of journalists all around the planet? Why do they even have beat reporters? One guy could just be doing all the beats. You're extra grumpy today? Yes, because I'm back in the United States of America. That's number one. And number two, yeah, people are just extra dumb today. Like, please, dude. I am a political commentator. I am not a journalist. That's number one. Number two, even if I was a journalist, I would have to keep to a specific beat. Okay? But also not be able to do this thing that I'm doing, informing as large of a group of as possible. Okay? Anyway, notice how they stop responding when you walk through their dumbass argument? They do. I feel like people are just getting dumber and dumber every single day. Anyway, now let's get to the Democrats. Why aren't the Democrats doing anything? By Leisha Miller.
Trump and his cronies, including unelected, deluded, low IQ, ugly, socially awkward, loser, dork, billionaire Elon Musk, are stripping people of their rights, placing people in camps, invading our privacy, and gutting the federal government. And to those of you in my comment section saying personal attacks and name-calling undermine my arguments, no, they don't. No, they don't. I can bully Elon Musk and create sound legal arguments at the same time. Watch me. And yes, I'm going to be saying swears a lot in this episode because I'm mad. The uncensored version is available on my Patreon linked below. And in response to this tyranny, this all-out war on democracy, on the very foundations of our country, of the rule of law and of the Constitution, our lawmakers are, sending strongly worded letters, tweeting, holding press conferences. I don't know about
Hassan, you're playing dumb. It's not about teleporting. It's about scaling up your operations. Scale the logistics of Hasanabi Productions. That's all I'm asking. I'm still responding. Stop fucking ignoring me. Scale up your operations. That's all we're asking. Okay. I'm going to respond to this the last time. Okay. Considering that I am currently doing news commentary for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the only thing I'm good at, and it's the only thing I've done that I've actually been able to scale up within the bounds of reason, okay? When you ask me to scale up my operations, what you are demanding is that I go and I hire managers. I maybe go to private equity to actually go and get more capital and be beholden to a constant profit seeking by banks and other investors that are now tasked with growing this operation. I go and I hire journalists all around the country. I spend a good deal of this time not doing commentary, but instead management. I'm not good at management. I cannot do management, okay? You want me to become a corporation. I'm not good at that. I'm good at this. That is precisely why I do this, okay? Not if you're smart with contract law. What the fuck are you saying? Shut the fuck up! Let me become smart with contract law.
You, but it feels like, not enough. Today, we're going to talk about what the Democrats are and are not doing, what they should be doing, and what to do about all of it. Let's get into it. But first, a very big palate cleanser. It's almost Valentine's Day, and whether you're partnered up in a throuple, single, and ready to mingle, or in a never-ending series of situationships, you deserve to celebrate. And listen, in these trying times, finding anything to celebrate is a major win. What better way to celebrate love than with the most comfortable underpants of your life? Thank you to MeUndies for partnering with me on today's video. MeUndies offers insanely comfy and sexy underpants and loungewear to buy or gift this holiday season. They have something for everyone, from basic black to fun prints, and you can get a matching set for yourself or get a set that matches your partner or even your pet. And they have loungewear too, including joggers, hoodies, onesies, and more. It's comfy, it's responsibly sourced, and hey, if you don't love your first pair, it's on MeUndies. That's how confident they are, and I am, that you'll love your MeUndies. But how could you not love them? Look at this sassy little Kiss My Peach set I got. We're keeping it PG here, so calm down, but just know they're flattering and comfy as heck.
No, I'm not raging so hard I forgot I'm watching an ad. This is a day ago from Leisha Miller. It's Ethical Reacts. Okay, of course we're going to watch her ad. We're watching her video
this Valentine's
overall.
Day, give the gift that'll always have them thinking of you and get 20% off your first order, plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/Leija and enter the promo code Leija. That's MeUndies.com/Leija. Enter promo code Leija. Thanks, MeUndies. So let's get the lay of the land here, because as I keep saying, the point is to overwhelm us to the point of not caring. So we need a big picture moment to understand where we are. Trump passed a ton of executive orders right away after his inauguration. I went over all of them in a previous episode. They then started an avalanche of administrative actions that agencies under Trump within the executive branch are making in order to carry out his executive orders and proclamations. Those are things like the order to expand expedited removals of illegal immigrants, the the closure of USAID, the creation of DOGE with loser Elon Musk at its helm, despite the fact that he's not appointed or elected and is just acting in his individual private civilian capacity, and acting illegally to gut as many federal programs as possible. Lots of lawsuits are coming down the pipe to stop DOGE, to challenge the end to birthright citizenship, and so much more. So that accounts for 2 of the 3 branches of government. Trump and his loyalists and government agencies are shutting down, freezing spending, and gutting agencies of their institutional knowledge and personnel. Within the executive branch, lawsuits are being filed by state AGs, private citizens, nonprofit orgs, and more, and judges are using their injunction power to stop various of Trump's orders from going into effect until these lawsuits play out. And while it is incredibly tedious and slow, it is that injunction power that is standing in the way of a lot of these things from playing out. So the judicial branch is doing its part in the checks and balances scheme to step in where it can as Trump continues to overreach. So that leaves one branch, one sad little useless, limp branch that doesn't seem to be doing much of anything in its checks and balances powers to counteract the actual insanity unfolding in the executive branch. And that's the legislative branch, where our legislators, the ones we elected to represent us, the ones who are supposed to be the essential part of the democratic workings of our government, where they sit around with their thumbs shoved up their asses doing jack shit to stop any of this, all while lamenting, well, we just don't have a majority.
Leisha is also a lib, like, for the most part. I really like her commentary, but like, she certainly is I think closer to the Democratic Party than myself. Okay, so for her to provide this blistering criticism, I think, is a pretty solid read on how a lot of regular institutional Democratic Party voters, I mean, she's not fully on board with the Dems either, but she definitely is like an active supporter who does not shy away from openly stating that she likes the Democratic Party. I think she's more left than you think she is. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she is definitely more progressive than the average Dem. But having said that, I think she is overall. I think she's overall like, yeah, 100. Like Elizabeth Warren Dem is a good way to look at it. Yeah. But regardless, her commentary is solid always, okay? And that's precisely why I rely on her coverage and her commentary on a regular basis. Now, having said that, I think this is a fairly decent assessment on even people that are, you know, on the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, feeling a little angry with the Democratic Party.
Oopsies, sorry, guess there's nothing we can do. Or playing lip service to our outrage through strongly worded letters to Marco Rubio or some shit. The classic trope I've talked about before. Republicans openly violate the laws in the Constitution, and then the Democrats say, hey, but I mean, you can't do that. So here's a basic rundown of what Congress has done since Trump was inaugurated. The Senate has confirmed 13 Trump appointees and passed the Laken-Riley Act, the first official law Trump has signed. Laken-Riley was passed with bipartisan support and allows for the complete suspension.
This was so unimaginably. She's the type of person who thought the January 6th Commission was going to do something. I don't know about all that. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But the Laken-Riley Act being passed with bipartisan support was so incredibly cruel, so ruthless, so ridiculous.
Of due process rights for undocumented immigrants accused of crimes. Not just violent crimes, but also theft. Reminder that we give due process to everyone in this country, at least in theory, meaning notice and an opportunity to be heard by a judge, the right not to be held indefinitely without a trial and forcibly removed from the country. We give that to everyone, including those accused of even the most heinous of crimes in this country. But the Laken-Riley Act, combined with Trump's executive orders declaring an emergency at the border and pausing all immigration, including of refugees and asylum seekers.
Yeah, the fact that it had no resistance is so sad and disgusting. No resistance. It's worse than that. There was support. That's what makes it so insane. Support from the Democrats on the basis of something that the Democratic base cares about, which is bipartisanship for the sake of compromise and nothing else. The fact that this was presented as a bipartisan bill and the fact that Democrats passed alongside, like Democrats offered a veto-proof majority, a filibuster-proof majority by voting for it was insane. Why wouldn't they support it? First of all, they should support nothing that the Republicans are advancing. If Republicans, when Democrats are in charge and they advocate for bills that actually Republicans want, the Republicans still obstruct. That's number one. Why do they do that? Because there are only benefits for obstructing in this partisan way. Okay? But number two, for this bill specifically, it is an incredibly cruel bill that denies due process on the basis of your documentation. Okay? If you are suspected as an immigrant, both documented or undocumented, if you're an immigrant and someone suspects you of stealing, this can come and detain you permanently and deport you. Okay? This is unconstitutional. It is completely unconstitutional.
Damn, this guy's good.